Hi, I'm Paul Seal from coaching.co.uk. Welcome to this second episode in this mini-series where I show you how to do searching in Umbraco V8. Now, just to say, it's not the definitive way on how to do searching in Umbraco V8. It's just the way that I've found works well for me, and I'm just sharing my experience with you. Feel free to comment. Don't forget there's the Our Umbraco forum as well. That's ourumbraco.com. You can go on there for help, but also if you want, you can comment. And if I know the answer, I'll answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll direct you to the forum. So let's get into this episode then. So first of all, we're going to have a look at where we left off last time. So last time we did where we were passing in values to the query string like this, and then it was rendering it out on the page. So we covered render MVC controller. So if you've not watched that episode and you don't know about render MVC controllers, probably best to go back to that episode. In this episode, we're going to create a basic form, and we're going to look at view models with that form, and also how to render a form using the helpers for Umbraco, and also how to use a surface controller to submit that form, and the different states between looking at the model state, see if it's valid, and returning either the current page if it's not valid, or redirecting to the search page and with the query string in there for us. So let's get on with this then. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have a look at doing a basic form. So we've got our search page, and on this search page we just have this. And what we could do with doing is having something, let's just start off with just doing basic HTML. Form action equals, so this is going to go to a URL. We want it to go to search. And we want an input on here. Input type equals text. Name equals query. Placeholder equals search, ... And we'll just end that there, and then we'll just put a button in. So all we're doing at the moment is we're just doing a simple HTML form on the page, and we will see what this does. So if we just take that off, press enter, we should see we've got this search. And if we search for something in here, that actually does get passed through and get rendered out there. So what that's doing is that is getting picked up from the search page controller, this query parameter here, and is getting passed into this search page model as the query property of it and coming through. So it's just basically, instead of us typing it into the query string, because the name of this on the search page, because the name of this input is called query, then that is what gets passed to the action on search. So we could, if we wanted to, do another one for category. So let's just test this out, category. And we'll do one for page as well, why not? And page. This, again, is just about just getting some basics, laying some foundations first of all before going full steam ahead. So let's just do category. Now with this, we might want to do a drop down later on, but for now, we'll just do it as an input, and then page number. Save this. So if we go back to our page, because also another thing to say, as it's a view, we don't need to do a rebuild because it's just on the actual Razor view. If it was any of the code, it would, like in the content model or in the controllers, we would need to build a solution again. But because it's not, we can just save that and then go back to the page and reload it. So I'll just take this off, reload the page. Now we've got three inputs on the page. So search, let's look for Umbraco. The category is .NET, and the page number is 3. We'll hit search on that, and that's been picked up inside our surface control. Our render MVC controller for the search page, and these values have been passed through. all from doing that. And this form could be on a different page. So let's take this form out of here. I've just cut that form. We could have that form on the home page. I'm not sure where it's going to look good here, but let's give it a go here and see what happens. And go back to the home page. So we have our search page, search form. So Umbraco, something, and page number 4. Click search, and that's gone through to the search page. So you see how we've got our search form. It could be anywhere on the site. We submit that, and it takes us straight to our search page. So in future episodes, we'll wire that up to where we've got the search page Render MVC controller. In here, we're going to do this search. So it all happens on this index action when the page loads, and we go off and we get some search results. So we have a very basic form, but we want to do more with that form. And when we're working with forms in MVC, we like to do a view model. So I'm just going to keep everything in this one project on this. People will give you their opinions on how to structure a project. It's a good idea to have a core library project. On this tutorial, just to keep it simple, we're just learning from things in the past. I'm just going to keep everything within this whole this whole project. So where I've got models, I'm going to do a view models just to differentiate it slightly. So view models, again, this is another one where people will disagree with naming conventions. I'm not here for that. I'm just here to try and show something to you as simple as possible. So let's add a new class. So I've added a new folder called view models, and I want to add a new class called search view model. And this search view model is going to have a couple of properties on it. So we're going to have a public string query with get and set, and public string category get and set as well. So that's our search view model. And then we want to create a partial view for our form. So we're going to partials, and then I'm just going to create it here. So instead of doing add and then view, what I found, if you do that, it will scaffold it. And what I mean by scaffold it, it will add a controller, it'll add a folder, and this, that, and the other, because it thinks you're doing it the MVC way. But all I really want to do is just have a separate partial view. So a good thing to do is just copy a view that's there and paste, and then rename, and I'm going to call this search form. And then now I can just get rid of everything that's there and then use it. So now it didn't. Another annoying thing is it installs Modernizer and some other packages, all because you did right-click new view. So that's just a tip there. I don't know if it's changed in 2019, but I got bitten by it before and I can't be bothered with it now. So what we want to do on this search form is we want to use the view model, which is the one that we just created, this search view model. So as with most partials, that when we're using it Umbraco, we want to do inherits, and then we want to say Umbraco view page. And the model that we want it to use is model code share. Oh, sorry, searching is the name of our project. Searching.site.models.view models, and then search view model. Again, I don't mind about the namespace. You can put these files wherever you want to. So we're using that view model, and then we want to create the form on the page. So instead of just typing it out like we were doing on the home one, what we're going to do is use this. So using HTML.begin Umbraco form, and we want to tell it what the action is. So it will be submit form, and it's going to use a surface controller that we haven't created yet. And we're going to call this surface controller search surface. and we want to put another comma in there. So the form method that we want to do is a post, and we don't need to pass in any classes or anything like that. And then we can just open and close some curly braces or squiggly brackets, I like to call them. So let's just create our form. First of all, we'll just, as it's using Bootstrap, let's just add a container on the page here, and with a row as well. And then we'll do a div class equals form group. You can skip all this if you don't want to, if you're not bothered about this, but this will just help it look a bit better on the page. And then inside here, so with MVC, you get these HTML helpers for binding the view model to the view. So if we can do this HTML dot, and then we can do label for, and then open the brackets. Now I'm not going to explain everything about MVC, but I'll just explain a bit about how we use it with binding these model properties. So what I usually do is label for, so I usually do M for model. So we're using a lambda expression here. So we're saying we're using the model, we want to bind this HTML label for the query. And we will also want to, inside here, input group, we want to put the input. Again, the HTML isn't that important around it, but these bits are. So we're going to do another one now is html.textbox4. M goes to m.query. And we are going to pass in an HTML attribute. And this is going to be the class. Class equals form control. So it likes that now. And we can also pass in a placeholder as well. So placeholder. Now I put the at in front of class because that's a reserved keyword in .NET. So we can't use it like that. So we have to put an at in front of it. And so with this placeholder equals search. One thing also I should say at the beginning of all my videos, don't forget, you're on YouTube, you can actually change the speed. So if you think I'm talking too slow, if you're just watching it and not actually coding along, you can change the speed up a bit. You might find you can follow it along better if it's a little bit faster for you. Anyway, so we've got our col there for the input, and then we'll just do another one on the other side. So at the moment, we're just going to have the query, and then we're going to have the button. So this div is going to have a class of form group again. Going to have a col6. Actually, I think we're using an older version of Bootstrap. So what I'm going to do is just put in the MD in there. I'm not sure that the older version has just col6. Then in here we can do at html.label4. M goes to m. Oh, actually, we don't have a label for this, so we can just say label search. It's just the label above the button, and then we can just put a button in here. ID equals submit. Class equals button primary. Button block. These classes might not be relevant for the theme that the starter kit uses, but oh well. And I was going to use font awesome, but I don't even know if that's even on here. So we'll just put the word search inside the button. Right, so that's our form. So now we've created our search form. Let's just try and put this on our page. So if we just do an at HTML. You could just even do .partial, and you could say search partials, search form. Now this isn't the final way we're going to do it, and then you could just do new search for view model. So it doesn't know about the namespace, so what we want to do is at using searching.site.models.viewModels. So it should know about that. Give it a curly brace, and it should be happy with that. So let's see what happens. We might find that there's a problem with the form action because we don't have a search surface controller yet. But let's give it a go. So I've saved that. Again, I did create a view model actually, so I might need to just do a rebuild solution. I always like to do rebuild solution rather than just build. But you can just do build solution if you want to. Let's see what's happening on the page now that we've created this view model and this search form. One thing I like about web development is you see things, you can see quick results. I do like this. Make a change, see a result on the page, make a change, see a result. Right, so this isn't looking very pretty. And if we inspect, we might find that where we go up to the form, it's still got the action of search. So it knows that it's on this page. So that's okay. So in theory, that could actually work as it is. So let's just search for something. No, could not find a surface controller root in the root table. For controller name, search surface. Okay, so if we go back into this search form, search surface, so that's the short name for search surface controller. We don't have it yet, so let's go and create it. So in the controllers folder, we want to create another folder called surface. So this is where we're going to put all of our surface controllers. And the difference with the render MVC controller and the surface controller, with the render MVC controller, this is the one that gets tied to the views, whereas the surface is more about action. So when you're submitting a form and doing things like that, or you've got particular partials that you want to render, you can call an action that will then return a partial, and it can come preloaded with things like that. So yeah, I would use surface controller for submitting forms, especially for doing the submit when you want to do your search. And the render MVC controller is the one that gets tied to the actual main view. The surface controller, again, will probably be the one that is tied more to partial views and things like that, as you do create forms and all sorts of features and functionalities in your Umbraco sites. So let's create this. So we'll do add new class, and I'm going to call it search surface, and as always, controller at the end, .cs. So with our search surface controller, we want some using. So we want to use system.collections.generic. We want to use searching.site.models. We'll also want to use system.web.mvc and umbraco.web.mvc. This class needs to inherit from surface controller, and we get that surface controller from the umbraco.web.mvc namespace. So we're going to inherit from that. So now, because we've added those namespaces and everything, we can start to add our action results. So one of them is going to be called submit form. So action results submit form. And if we just go back to the search form, we can see that this is the action that we're actually going to call from our search page, from our form. So submit form, and this wants to expect a search view model. Don't get that confused with a search content model. And we might actually have to tell it to look in view models rather than just models. And we'll just give that a name of model. So it's expecting a search view model called model. Then inside this form, what we usually do is if the model state of the form is valid, so if it's not valid, I've put the exclamation there to say if it's not valid, then return current Umbraco page. So that won't do the full redirect to it. That will just like try to submit and fail and just go back to the page. And then what we can do is we can create a new name value collection for the query string, so that if it is valid, then we can redirect to the current page and pass in a query string to use based on the values that are in the search view model. So if we do using system.collections.specialized, then we can come down here and we can do var query string equals new name value collection. So then what we want to do is we want to add to it. So where we've got the model, so we could add to it only if it's present on the model. So if we want, we can do if model dot query. So we can do if not string dot is null or white space model dot query, like that. We just move this up, make it clearer. Then we'll add that to the query string dot add. So the name. So we just have a look at this. So we can do string. So it's a string name and a string for the value. So the name here is going to be query, and the value is going to be model.query. So that's our first item that we're adding to our query string. Then we can do it again for the other one. So if not string dot is null or white space model dot category, even though it's not on the form, it's okay to do it now because we've got it on the model itself. We can add it to the form later, and we won't worry too much about how it looks. We can always tidy that up. So if it's not null or white space, the category, then also add that to the query string dot add, and then we can do category model dot category. So we have our query string set up now, and we could do it for page as well, but we didn't add that. Shall we add it? Come on, let's add it. Let's add page to the search view model. You probably was already complaining to me, but I couldn't hear you. Let's just copy and paste and get it on there quickly, just for completeness for these early stages. We're not there yet, but let's do this. Right, so now that we have this, what we want to do is it was valid. So if it's not valid with a form, in the model state you will have some model error. It has some model errors, and in those errors it will be complaining about some of the properties on the view model. Let's have a look at the view model before we finish off the surface controller. What we can do up here is we can do a display attribute. So we need to add system.componentModel. So we just type in display and then it should know about it. System.componentModel.data annotations. So we can do name equals, and then this one was going to be query. This is what we use in the label. So when we've got the on the search form, where we've got this at html.label for, in here we can actually call it search term, like that. Then when this form gets rendered out on the page, it will be rendered with the label value of that. And with these view models as well, what we can do is we can make things required. So we can do required, and then we can give it an error message. So error message is you must enter a search term, like that. Obviously, I need to finish the brackets off there. That was a bit lazy of me. Right, so we've made the query property required. And one other thing we can do is we can, on here, we can actually add a validation message for. And in a similar way, we're going to use the lambda m goes to m dot, and then we can put in query. So now, if there is an error, it's going to show up underneath the text box. And again, styling's probably going to be off. Let's not worry about that for now. Shall we add the other properties on the form? Are you also screaming out for that? Let's put them all in, just see how horrible it looks. Actually, I'm just going to copy this. Oop. Copy it twice and just change query for category. So do Control H, query and category. In the selection, replace all. And we'll do one for page as well. Query for page. So these don't necessarily want a placeholder like we had there. You could just put it in, I suppose. Category, page number. So yeah, we're using the MVC helpers here for these. And so where we just created the basic HTML form on the home like this, with MVC, you can use these helpers and it renders it out for you based on what's in the model. So we get to use the label part of it, so that comes from the model. And there is a way to get it to read these values from the Umbraco dictionary as well. But I'm not doing that on this episode. We may as well put in the display at least for each of these, just for neatness. But if it isn't present, what it does is it will just use the name of the actual property. But that's rubbish. Say if this was called page number, and then you wouldn't want it to show us like that in your error message or in your label. You'd want it with a space, and the only way to do that is to do it like this. But I'm just going to change it back to be called page anyway. Right, so we've got our view model updated a bit more, decorated with some attributes. Let's go back to our search form. We've got those properties on the form, and it's probably looking disgusting on the page if we refresh it. Let's just load the page. We've got errors because it's now saying it doesn't know what page is. It doesn't contain the definition for page, and what you'll remember is that I actually changed the class. So because of that, I need to do another rebuild or build. So I'll do my build, and now the namespace home it's not enjoying either. So I'm just going to close home.cshtml because that's not my problem. That's a models builder thing. And now we have another issue, and that is we didn't finish our surface controller. So what we want to do is we want to get it to redirect to current Umbraco page and pass in the query string. So we'll do return redirect to current Umbraco page, and then the query string. So let's see what the available options are. We can pass in a name value collection, that's what we've got, or we could pass in a string, or we could pass in nothing. So we're going to pass in our name value collection, so that is query string. And if we were to give that another build, because we just changed some of the classes and then reloaded the page, we should be okay when we load the page now, because it will know about all the classes and everything. And there's something else we need to do. So we'll get onto that in a moment, but we're coming towards the end of this this coding part of this episode. There's some more to come at the end of this episode that I want to just share with you. Right, so let's not submit anything. We're tempted to submit because, we want to have a play with it, but it's not going to work yet. Or is it? So if we submit, will it be valid? It will then add this query string. Well, it could work. Let's just try it. Something category 5. Let's submit. And it's come back to this page with that query string. So it has actually worked. So that was a success. And you could put this form anywhere else on the site. But the idea is that it just loads this page with this query string. So let's say if we left off something, what would happen? You must enter a search term. That's good. So that's showing that we've got the validation working. So all right, we've got something in there. Let's leave off a category, leave off a page number, and then hit search. And what you find is we go to the query string of just query equals something. So it is working to that. But what we also want to do is in our search page controller, we want to go to our content model and we want to add to this the search view model as a property. The get and a set. And we want to using Umbraco not Umbraco, searching.site.models and view models. So instead of having these as properties of this search content model, we're having the view model as a property. So we're going to take these off, and then we're going to go into our search page controller. So we're creating our search page model. So this is the one that renders the actual for the main template for the search page. We want to, first of all, inside here, we want to do a var search view model equals new search view model, and we want to go up here and just do the using. So using searching is the name of our project, searching.site.models.viewModels. We're saying we want a new one of these, and in it we want to assign some of these values. So we want to tell it the query equals query. We want to say category. Oh, we need a comma there because I'm doing it with this initializing way. Category equals category, and page equals page. And we want to end this with that. And then we want to tell the search page model that the view model is a property of it. Now, it doesn't look like it recognizes it on our page model. So if we go back to this, let's just see what the problem is. We don't have, you see here, I didn't put a public. So because I didn't put a public, this doesn't know about it at this point. But if I put a public now, if you don't put a public, it's private. So now that I put a public on there, it knows about it, is happy. And I've tried to tell it that it's search page model, but in fact it's search view model. So make sure you update that. If you were following along to the letter and you see that I made the mistake, update it as well, because I have. So now what we're doing here then, on our render MVC controller, our search page controller, we're picking up the query string. We are then creating a new search view model. We're passing in these from the query string as properties of this search view model. And that's going into there as a property on our page. Then when we come to render our search page, instead of calling new search view model, we can do model.search view model and do a build again because we changed some of the classes. And then let's load the page without the query string and just see, watch what happens. It could blow up or it could just work. Fingers crossed. Nothing died. So here we go again. So let's search for something about Umbraco. The category is CMS. The page number is 3. Let's submit this. It's worked, and also this model is hydrated, as they say, with the values. So because we have the model bound here, so model m.category, etc., then this is hydrated with it, so it came through. The example here is if I take off page, the other two get populated, but page number didn't because there wasn't a value for it. So it's just showing the placeholder for page number there. Obviously, we're not going to tell you to type in a page number. It's going to work a lot better than that in the future. And it's all wired up now, and it updates the query string. So we're setting ourselves up ready for the next part, where we'll probably we'll start creating a search service, and we'll start adding some results to our search view model. So yeah, I think that's where we'll leave it in terms of the code. What I want to do now as well is just share some websites and things that I thought you might be interested in. So Candid Contributions, they are a podcast from these 4 lovely ladies who are part of the Umbraco community. It's not exclusively about Umbraco, but it is a lot about Umbraco. So if you're into Umbraco, you want to get to know the Umbraco community, learn all sorts of things, and learn about hackathons you can take part in, then go and listen to Candid Contributions podcast. And you can just go to candidcontributions.com and play the episodes on the browser if you want to. Scriff magazine, I've written for them before. They're really good. Umbraco magazine that you should, if you're interested in Umbraco, you want to keep up to date, you want to learn new things, definitely look out for the new issues. I think you can subscribe to their mailing list. Look out for the latest issues of the magazine, and you can also look back through their back catalogue of loads of different articles. So yeah, go and follow Scrift. And also there's 24 days in Umbraco. So if you go to 24days.in and then /Umbraco-CMS, every day in December, it's like an advent calendar, there'll be a new article. So as good as what's on Scrift, same sort of authors write for this online magazine as well, in a advent calendar style way, and it's a surprise as well. So check that out. And so that's really good to follow along with all the different articles every day. And again, it's a really good resource. We've got articles going back to 2012 here, so 24 days every year since 2012. If you want to, you can buy me a coffee, but you don't have to. coachshare.co.uk/coffee. And also, John Blair, I found this guy. He's making loads of videos on Umbraco, and they're really useful. And I saw one video where he was sending notifications to mobile phones and laptops and everything. So it was really good, that was. And there's so many videos that I can go through here and learn about what he's been doing with Umbraco. He seems to be integrating a lot with third-party systems, so that's really useful. My friend Nick Remington, he's started a new series about Umbraco, and it's public profile pages for your Umbraco members. I think it's going to be a 4-part series. So yeah, follow along with that if you're interested in learning about members and making profile pages and things like that. And there was one more, so that was community.umbraco.com. There is this new section, new site for Umbraco about the community. So you can, if you if you are someone who wants to get involved in the Umbraco community, this would be a good place to start. And this is how you can learn about events, the people and what they're doing in the community. This is a good one, community videos. So you can watch Umbra Coffee, and this is where I found John Blair's video. So yeah, have a look in there at the feed of videos. There's so many. If you're watching an Umbraco video now, you're probably interested in that page. All sorts of blog posts, again, similar to the videos. There's a feed of blog posts goes into this. It looks like it's just exclusively Umbraco. Oh, no, it's not. There's one of mine. Oh, yeah, the difference is this article here. So they've all got the same header image, but the difference is there, the profile. Loads of community blog posts. Anyway, check it out. That's community.umbraco.com. Thanks for following along in this episode. I hope it's kept you interested and got you raring to go for when we start integrating with building a search service using Examine to start querying our content and returning the results onto the page. Right, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.